Welcome to the QP Diaries Podcast. This podcast is all about inspiring and empowering the next generation of QP professionals and future quality assurance leaders in the UK pharmaceutical industry. On every episode, I'll be speaking to QPs from across the industry, and our listeners will have the opportunity to hear their stories, their expertise, and we're going to be discussing topics to foster growth and learning to help you develop your career as a qualified person. If you're passionate about quality assurance and want to learn from some of the very best QPs and thought leaders from across the industry, then this is a podcast for you. I'm your host, Dal, founder of AssureBio, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. We are proud to have partnered with NSF as a sponsor of the QP Diaries podcast. Becoming a qualified person is a significant commitment of time, effort and resources, and the QPs trained by NSF are widely recognised as the very best in the industry, with no other training provider matching their experience or success rate. If you're interested in learning more about NSF's QP training course, you can find the link in the show notes. For now, we hope you enjoy this episode of the QP Diaries podcast. Hi Stephen.
Hey Dal, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad at all. Welcome to the QP Diaries podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to this.
Excellent. I think it's taken me about a year to try and get you on.
We've been close a couple of times, so it's good to be finally doing it.
We have been close, but yeah, we're finally here now. We're recording today, so yeah, I'm very excited about our conversation and to hear your story to becoming a QP. So let's get into it, Stephen. So do you want to introduce yourself and then share your journey to becoming a qualified person, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Stephen Clark. I qualified as a QP 14 years ago this month.
Okay.
And through that 14 years, I've actually worked at quite a lot of companies. When I did a wee look back, so I think I've been on, worked with 7 different companies, I've been on 6 different licenses. But the journey, how it started, sitting as a QA officer one day, 2 other QA officers beside me, the boss comes into the room and says, right, I've got funding to put 2 of you through QP training, and it's up to you 3 to decide which 2 are going. And then he walked out the room and left us to it. So me being me said, yeah, I'd love to do it. One of the other people in the office said, no, I do not fancy that at all. And then by default, the third person became the second person that went through the training. So it took me around 5 years from starting the course to actually get to my Viva.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of help along the way. So 2 big things. I was working in a clinical packaging facility at the time. So I had no real manufacturing experience. But the facility had an oral solid dose facility. The company had an oral solid dose facility nearby and also a steroids facility nearby. So I got to spend good time in both of those facilities to bulk out my experience. And just my wife's an absolute superhero. So we started a family around about the same time, and for long periods, she was just bringing up the kids by herself. I was away doing courses or I was on audits to pick up, learn about other quality systems and such. I'd done a lot of audits at the time. So she'd done a lot of that by herself. But yeah, it wasn't always easy. I was signed off for a period of time, work-related stress and anxiety. So just having to take that period to just relax, chill, almost start from scratch again. Make sure the old mental health was okay. But yeah, I had a sponsor that was absolutely fabulous. One of the advice I can give to any of the trainees out there is get yourself a sponsor that is actually active in what you're doing, not just somebody who will sit back and tell you, oh, do lots of practice sessions, blah, blah. Somebody that's really, really involved, and I had an absolute crack at it. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. So around 5 years from starting the courses, building the experience, doing all of that additional studying to the point where I actually went forward and sat my Viva.
Yeah.
Sponsor had done a really, really good job of me. She held me back to make sure I was applying at the right time. Applied, managed to get through it at the first attempt. So chuffed to bits. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's an experience in itself. It's similar to this. It's a discussion, and you're chatting. Well, certainly back then, you're chatting with the people and you're explaining your thought processes. I made a huge error in my last question. So it was about how would you go about establishing a cleaning regime for a sterols facility. And I had never really worked in a sterols facility before. I had only visited them. And I used all the right words in completely the wrong order. And you could see the assessors kind of trying to let me know that I wasn't quite getting this right. But we got to the end of it. I acknowledged, listen, I think I got lots of mistakes in there, but hopefully you've already established that I've got the general thought processes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was ever in that environment, I would learn more about the environment before going on to the license. And back then, that was okay. You could make a mistake back then, and the assessors would still say, yeah, we trust you. If you were releasing medicines, we would be happy for our family to take those medicines. So congratulations, you've passed.
Yeah.
I've heard more recently that that's maybe not the case anymore. That if you're not a clone of the assessors, you might find it difficult to get through. But yeah, things change through time, don't they? So yeah, that was the journey to becoming a QP.
Excellent. Yeah. So it sounds like it was a bit turbulent at the start. Then, I mean, going through the application process, you had a few personal issues, but it sounds like your support network were vitally important to get you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say my sponsor was great. The company I had round about me. So I started the process at Quintiles, and then Quintiles became Aptuit, and that Aptuit site is now Catalant.
Okay.
A lot of good people, lots of support from them. Other than that time with the mental health issue. So what actually happened was, with a fantastic quality manager who had been headhunted to go elsewhere, and the company seemed to think that because they were spending a lot of money on my training, that I would be able to do both of those roles. Mm-hmm. And that was a large part of why the breakdown happened. But yeah, keen to get me through, keen to make contacts, encouraging me to rely on the contacts I had already made to bulk out, my experience and knowledge and stuff. And yeah, I would recommend to people out there to do that as well. We've got a network in Scotland, QP Network, and it is all about helping each other and facilitating the trainees with the visits that they need and the experience they need. So yeah, recommend to anybody to try and get that going for yourself. And if you're sponsoring people, try to help them down that route as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a consistent message that I get from QPs who are sharing their experiences, that the support network is so important, and to ensure that you put yourself into those networks, not relying on them coming to you.
Yeah, but again, it's lifelong. It's not just about getting through your Viva. Mm-hmm. I still have times where things crop up at work and you think, right, who knows about that aspect the best? And you drop them a wee note and you have a wee chat about it, and you just calibrate against people who've already been there and done that before. So it's the networks. It's a great support tool to have.
Yeah, and I think it's also just going back to how you entered into becoming a QP is a brilliant example of how to grasp an opportunity when it's presented to yourself. That, as you say, that you were put into rooms like, right, who wants to put the hand up to become a QP, which I'm sure you don't regret at any point in your career.
But that's been me my whole life. I'm the one that will step forward. I'm the one that will say yes, and then figure out how to do it. And certainly the move to QP has been a good move for me. So yeah.
Excellent. So you mentioned you're 14 years a QP now. So you hit your anniversary last month. So how has your role evolved over the years? So, I mean, I can see behind you that you're now at BDD, but you've worked at different companies. Can you talk us through that, please?
So again, one of the things I've found, if you are willing to move about, having the QP availability gives you, it opens up a huge market to you. So started off in clinical packaging, but since then I've worked in steriles, I've worked in creams and ointments, I've worked in oral solid dose, APIs. So at one point I was a site quality director in the facility that made 70-75% of the world's penicillin API. So you're holding a lot of life in your hands at that point in terms of making sure the systems are good and robust. Currently at BDD, really enjoying here. We complete opposite end of the scale. So no batch is too small for us. If your API is very, very critical to you, very expensive, we will make a one tablet batch for you. So one of the things that happens in the early phase is trying to establish where a tablet disintegrates within the body. So what we do, we'll make that one tablet batch for you, radio label it. We'll have our own clinical facilities as well. So find a healthy volunteer, get them to take the tablet, and then we'll do a scintigraphy study. So actually, time-delayed photographs, picking up that radiation, and you can see the small ball working its way through the GI tract, and then suddenly one of the photographs, it just goes, and that's, disintegration has happened. And if it's in the colon, you can see the outline of the colon because of where the radiation's starting to penetrate through into the body and stuff. I've been a QP who did little more than batch release, and I've been a QP who for 2 years didn't release anything because my role was entirely strategic as well. So the options that you've got out there are just absolutely phenomenal. Thoroughly recommend it to anybody. It's very dependent on the company you're with and the role that's in there. But yeah, if you're willing to move about and change your role, then you can try 100 different things and see what works for you best. This seems to be what really works for me. I like the small scale stuff, developing it and seeing how effective the drugs can be and how they work, and knowing that the good medicines are going to be there for decades and decades and helping lots and lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so having that QP eligibility has opened a number of doors then, in order to then gain different experiences. I know that you've gone into leadership, and as you say, you've worked on different manufacturing sites and different product ranges. Does your passion sort of evolve over the years? I mean, as you say, now you're in a company which you're like, wow, okay, it's completely fascinating and something very different.
Yeah, so when we were doing the clinical packaging right at the very start, I still consider that to be my expertise, and at the time, I was really, really into that. We did anything from, 50 bottles, 50 tablets in a white bottle and sending it out to, I think the biggest study we run when I was there was a 32-arm dose escalation study, which was blinded. So, the randomisation behind that and making sure that every single type of pack looks the same, from the primary packs to the outer packs, the labels, the density of the label text, the print on the label text. So when I was there, that was what really, really sparked me. Working in the steriles, learning about the steriles, the whole contamination control strategies, learning to speak Latin because of all of the things that come up every now and again that you think, oh, what type of bug's that? What does that mean? How would that impact on a patient? And now this is the first time I've worked so close to the clinic before. So again, learning about GCP and good clinical practices. And it's really funky that we administer to the healthy volunteers or the patients in the room next to where we make the tablets. So it's literally, you're there, you're seeing them getting dosed, you're seeing the scintigraphies that's coming through as well. So yeah, it's constant learning. Just keep on learning, learn new things. But the thing that really floats me is driving home at night and knowing that you've helped improve people's lives.
Yeah.
Or when you're working in the anti-cancer drugs, you're actually keeping people alive.
Yeah.
It's similar with the antibiotics and stuff like that. Is that the patient focus isn't just about the batch records and the systems in front of you. It's actually the warm, furry glow that you get at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice. Thoroughly enjoy working in pharma.
I can imagine, yeah, you're seeing a real true difference, as you say, right next door to the patients. And yeah, I'm sure it's something which you go home very proud of at night as that QP. And do you think that because you've worked at different companies in different sort of manufacturing facilities, has that helped you become a more well-rounded QP as well and quality?
I like to think so.
Okay.
Touched on it earlier when we were talking about the Viva assessors. Having seen multiple different quality systems, you realise that there's multiple different ways of getting it right.
Yeah.
You don't always need to assess risk in that particular approach. There's different ways you can assess risk. There's different ways you can control change. There's different ways you can facilitate continuous improvement. And I think having moved about different companies, you're always entering a new approach to quality systems, but then having the responsibilities to develop them and improve them. I think a better QP now than I was 13 years ago, right at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that have worked with me during that time might disagree, but I'd like to think so.
Yeah, everyone looks at their careers very differently. I know some just stay with one company and have that loyalty to that organisation, but then get opportunities within the company to then work on different projects, which is brilliant. But yeah, I do see the other side of it where QPs in particular like to work with different companies and get different experiences, and also work with different people, which is also very important.
Yeah, like I said, I've met some fantastic people, worked with some fantastic companies. Learned a few lessons along the way as well. So my approach has worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've learned a lot along the way. I've got myself in a company, in a situation that I thoroughly enjoy. Like the company's cracking, what we're doing is brilliant. So yeah, it's worked for me.
Yeah, excellent. And looking forward then, in your opinion, how do you see the role of a QP evolving, and in particular, as for example, technology advances, how can QPs upskill?
Yeah, so this is the bit where I do turn into a clone of everybody else that's done a podcast, and that we would be stupid to avoid AI and machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely going to be the future, in the near future as well.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something that's decades away. I'm old enough to remember a life before computers were really a big thing in workplaces and such like. And yeah, in the space of my 25-year career, we went from having no computers on site where we were manufacturing medicines to everybody walking about with a very powerful computer in their pocket. And I think that there's a huge step. AI machine learning is going to be a similarly huge step. There's jobs that we do today that won't exist anymore, I believe, because of AI and machine learning. And actually, I think batch release could well be one of them. I think 90-95% of just routine batch manufactures will become automated from your automated stock control process, feeding into your automated batch records, possibly even automated manufacturing without the person there. Samples taken go into your electronic LIMS system, and then the release just happens automatically. You don't need a QP to tell you that everything has went absolutely as it should have went. So I think a lot of the QPs out there that are 99% batch release officers should really be looking to develop their roles and spending more time on the quality system side of things, because I do think that batch release is going to become more and more automated with less and less need for QPs going forward. And so yeah, that's definitely one I think's on the horizon. As the regulators all get slimmed down, I think the companies themselves are going to need to take more and more responsibility for doing the right thing without having somebody looking over your shoulder. So all of our systems should always be about the patient in mind rather than the regulator in mind anyway. So we should be doing the right thing by the patient, and then by default, that should become the right thing by the regulators as well. But I do think that the onus is going to be more on us to justify what we do and how we do it, rather than just simple compliance. So I think, yeah, that'll be a notable change. And I think some people will struggle to get their head around that. I don't think it's always going to be easy to not be able to point to the black and white text and say, I need to do this. More about assessing those risks yourself and determining for yourself what are the right things to do. So yeah, I think as the regulators slim down, that's going to be a biggie for us as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think going back to your initial point on the in terms of artificial intelligence, the conversation's already taken place. So it's not as if this is something to just try and get a grasp of in the near future. It's happening right now. And yeah, I was at a conference early this week, and that was certainly the hot topic. And even the conversations I was having with different quality professionals is that, how do I think AI is going to impact their jobs for the future, and what should they be doing right now? And yeah, upskilling is definitely one thing. We're taking a moment to share a message from Catherine Kay, who is the Executive Director at our sponsor NSF, where she highlights the benefits of their training program for trainee QPs.
Our trainers for our courses are experts. They're experts from industry, have had many years experience and bring a wealth of knowledge to our training courses. We also provide Viva preparation sessions for them every month where they can practice answering questions in a group scenario. NSF have a long-standing partnership with the University of Strathclyde, so not only do our courses meet the requirements of the QP study guide, but they're also taught at a master's level. So that means that people can go on to and acquire a postgraduate certificate, diploma or even master's with the University of Strathclyde. Then you can go to our webpage, so nsf.org, and we have a whole page there set to our qualified person training, so you can read more there.
So do you think QPs need to become more tech savvy, if you put it that way?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what you go through your normal training. It's at least knowing what questions to ask.
Yeah.
So that you can get the correct information to know what to do with the information going forward. Some of us will inevitably become AI and machine learning geniuses and we'll be right into it. And I think the more time people spend with Martin Lush, the more likely they are to get to that point. But yeah, I think at the very least, knowing the basics about how the system works, what it's looking at, does it have any level of control, or is it just giving the information and the control still stays with the human? So yeah, it's an exciting time. I've barely touched on it at all, but I know that it's one of the things that I'm going to need to be on top of. And the things that I've done so far, very, very high level. So, if I'm running a GMP training session focused on sterile manufacture, what are the topics I should include? And let the AI come up with the topics, someone to reach out to, and just making sure that, I was already covering that, covering that. Oh, well, that's a good point. Maybe add more detail about that. So no, very, very light touch for me just now, but we can't just keep it light touch forever. It's going to be a huge part of all of our lives, so we need to throw ourselves into it and understand it.
Yeah, that's it. And it starts with self-learning, as you touched upon there, that you've got out there yourself and gone, right, okay, what can I do to understand it? And I think your point about asking the right questions to the right people is also going to be fairly important. I mean, I know some companies will have those experts internally. So yeah, it's sitting down and having those conversations to try and learn and develop yourself because it's going to be very, very necessary, not in the near future right now.
Yeah, and certainly for people of my generation, we might find it difficult. The younger ones coming through, like anything else, they'll just take it in their stride. It'll be second nature to them. But old fogies like me, they need to put in a wee bit more extra effort.
Yeah. And then bringing it down maybe to sort of challenges that QPs face, in particular in a batch certification role, which obviously every company has different challenges. But in your opinion, what are the most pressing ones that you see?
In my opinion, batch certification is the easy part of being a QP.
Okay.
Some of the newer QPs and the training QPs might not understand that some of the fights we used to have when QP discretion for out of spec batches was still a thing, that was still allowed. And business minded people within your organisation getting furious that you were rejecting this batch just because it was out of specification. So I think closing that has helped batch release hugely as well. I think it's made it much, much easier for the QPs. But yeah, the quality system side of things. There's 3 legal duties that cover batch release and 20 odd routine duties that cover everything else. And those 20 odd routine duties should be a significant part of what we're doing every day. We should be looking for opportunities for continuous improvement, making our systems better to hopefully make our products better, make things better for the patient as well. So yeah, we're now in a situation where if it's out of spec, it really needs to go in the bin. Twice in my career, I've had to reject in-spec batches, which is an interesting conversation as well. With one particular product, long-standing product, lots and lots of batches that have had stabilities performed on it. So we know the stability profile and we know how each of the different components drops off through time. And with the batch that was in spec, but it was barely in spec for one of the components, we knew it would have been out of spec within 9 to 12 months. So you reject it, you reject it at the start rather than putting it on the market to have to recall it, and yada yada. So yeah, some people very, very confused at that and having to explain to senior management and the sales team and the marketing team why this batch that they think is perfectly acceptable needs to go in the bin and be remade. That's an interesting discussion. And also one when I was, one of the things I learned about Big Pharma is that when you've not got your regulatory people beside you as your friends, that can be difficult. There was a batch manufactured GSK where the registered process hadn't quite been followed. There's a recirculatory step in there, recirculate the process for an hour, really just to make sure that things went to completion. But it was in the registered process, and in this one particular batch, they'd moved it on too early and they'd missed this recirculatory step. So I had a chat with the other QP that was on site. We agreed that batch-specific variation would absolutely do this. We wrote the risk assessment. All of the in-process testing was in spec. Final product testing was bang in the middle of the specification. So, everything very, very good. Kind of questioned why we needed that recirculatory step in there at all when you can make a perfect batch without it. Spoke to the regulatory team. Can you support us do a batch-specific variation? Here's why. Says no, we don't want the regulators to think that we're less than perfect, and we sometimes make mistakes, so we're not going to support it here. No, the batch needs to go in the bin, and it was £1 million batch. So I then had to explain to the site why this perfectly reasonable £1 million batch had to go in the bin. Also, very, very difficult conversations to have with people. And you carry that about, that for the rest of my time there, I was the guy that rejected the perfectly good £1 million batch. Which, wasn't particularly fair. But it's one of these things. It's one of the war wounds that you pick up as a QP.
Yeah. So as you said, the pressure doesn't really come from certifying batches. It's actually when you maybe having to go through the situation you went through and rejecting it, and it's obviously worth a lot of money, and explaining that to
making sure the systems are all there, make sure that the products are all registered appropriately. So rather than, it used to be that you would put in a tight specification to impress the regulators. And then you tie yourself up in knots down the line because actually your variability is a wee bit more than that. And the patient tolerance is wider than that again. So, thinking about these things up front rather than just you get to the batch release decision at the end.
Yeah. How would you advise maybe a junior QP in terms of their preparation for these type of conversations that typically take place?
So again, back to that network, you will have people either in your organisation or in your training network that have been through these situations before.
Okay.
Speak to your sponsor, see what the sponsor's got in their network. I'm a huge advocate for just talking to people, and not just quality people. Talk to the manufacturing guys, talk to the guys in the warehouse, let everybody know why you make some of the decisions that you make. And actually, going back to that one, the £1 million batch, that was probably one of the errors that I got there, that I didn't fully talk through the process and what we could do and what we couldn't do and who was holding us up and who thought this was okay. So certainly the communication is key. Talk to the people around about you, tap into the experience. It can't hold you back.
Yeah.
The ultimate decision is still with you. But if you can get as many sensible voices helping you make that final decision, then it's more likely to be a better decision.
Yeah. So imagine that pressure never goes away. However, if you are communicating, being open, having those conversations with your internal network and external network, then don't go through these scenarios alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, we should all be here to help each other. The QPs, we should be a bit like a union. All just reach out when you need help, and you should have lots and lots of people there trying to help you and willing to help you.
Yeah. And now, I mean, you've been in leadership roles, as you've mentioned, throughout your career. So as a leader, then how do you sort of mentor aspiring QPs who want to go on the same journey that you've gone on yourself?
Yeah, encouragement really is a big part of it. I'm not one of these guys that reads management books. I think I've read one in my life.
Okay.
The 1 minute manager meets the monkey. That helped me somewhat. But I think you got to be true to yourself, because people see through it. If you're trying to do something because somebody else told you that's the way to do it, I think people see through that very, very quickly. In terms of any team, not just QP mentoring, if you want your teams of people to develop and grow, you need to let them develop and grow. And sometimes that means making mistakes, and sometimes that means doing things differently from you. Um, you don't let the mistakes go so far that we're releasing batches that shouldn't be released and such like. But you give people a bit of room to develop things. I've only formally mentored one QP, but for the last year of his journey towards Viva, he had free rein to change the deviation system as he wanted to change the deviation system, change the risk system as he wanted to change the risk system. So that, he had to think through every single aspect and had to defend what he put in place and why it was a better approach, and actually take some criticism on maybe that aspect wasn't a better approach. But people aren't going to grow and develop into authoritative roles if you don't allow them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen some people just stifle their teams because the person at the top of the tree needs to make every decision, and it needs to be their decision. Yeah, okay, it gives you the confidence that everything's getting done your way, but your team aren't growing and developing. So yeah, trust the people round about you. If they're not up to the task, that's a different matter. But if you've got a good team round about you, let them grow and develop, encourage them, and give them your experience, give them your time, and be part of their growth process.
Yeah. Do you think you went through that yourself?
Oh, definitely. That I had, as I said before, my sponsor Caroline was absolutely fantastic. But it wasn't just her. There was other people in the companies that wanted to help me grow and develop. The people I went through my QP training with were very, very keen as well. That there was maybe a wee gang of about 8 of us, and we were determined that we were going to get through. It wasn't 8 individuals, we were all going to get through. And you look into the industry now, and yeah, some of them are your kind of celebrity QPs. Everybody knows them because they've grown and developed into QPs. They're involved with the MHRA, they're involved with the training agencies, they're on LinkedIn and podcasts, still trying to help the whole industry improve and develop. So yeah, it's absolutely key, it's critical.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think in terms of even the right culture within an organisation, the trust needs to be there, because you do find that there are more controlling companies who, they want the managers to make the decisions for everyone. Whereas, as you say, in terms of like learning and development and getting to where you need to be, that you have to go through that process. And I think that's sometimes we don't hear that enough in terms of giving the individuals the trust, the autonomy to do it for themselves.
Yeah, and it's even that I've had people in QA roles that I worked with in the past who said to me they knew the decisions that I was going to make in particular things because we've spoken about it so often before.
Mm-hmm.
They know that I will be comfortable with that thing happening, but not that thing happening, because they understand the thought processes. And yeah, so if you can get your team understanding what's critically important, what's somewhat important, and what really isn't important, then it helps us all grow and improve.
Yeah, yeah. And do you feel like that even yourself, you still go through that the learning never stops?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Working with so many companies, it's clearly something that's in me. That I also want to learn something new. And the AI and machine learning is probably the next big thing. Alongside, as I said, with us having the clinical units here, need to get closer to GCP as well and understand that. But I go out and I do talks in colleges and universities, do things like this. Desperate for people to go into pharmaceuticals because I've had a brilliant career in pharmaceuticals, and if you're an intelligent person doing science at university, come into pharma. We're brilliant. Come and be the next generation making the future medicines coming through. Be the guru on ATMPs that's going to revolutionise medicines. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear, Stephen. And in terms of the best advice that you could give back to anyone who wants to become a QP or is maybe earlier in the career, or even someone experienced, looking back on your career, what would that advice be?
It's a great career. So, if you're starting out and you're thinking about becoming a QP, put the effort in. It is really, really worth it. Fantastic career. Shame about the job title and having to explain to a million people what QP is and even what qualified person is.
Can anyone?
I'm qualified and I'm a person. Can I be a qualified person?
Yeah,
it's a horrible job title. But no, it's certainly worth it. It's worth the effort. But yeah, there are times where you need industry people around you to help you. But, look after your health as well. Make sure you've got a way of switching off and venting, and try and keep your smile and your bounce as long as you can. I've lost my smile on my bounce a couple of times, but certainly I've got it back now.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
And also, qualifying as a QP doesn't mean that it doesn't make you bionic. You need to look after yourself, but it also doesn't mean that you have all of the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared to say, I'm not sure, but I'll try and find out. There's a lot of responsibility, but it's a shared responsibility as well. The whole thing about quality being everyone's responsibility. Now remember that. It's not all about you as the QP.
Yeah. So I suppose no egos in the role. Just because you have that eligibility doesn't mean anything. That, as you say, quality is responsibility, and have that open mind to listen to others as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because there are people out there that will have better solutions than you've got.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't listen to them, you're not getting that better solution. You're not getting that improvement. So, yeah absolutely.
Yeah, and also the important message that you touched upon there is that look after yourself. So health is wealth. I always say that, and you say that yourself based on experience, that you have to look after yourself. It's not all just about your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant, Stephen. Yeah. Well, I think that's it for all my questions. So thank you so much for being a brilliant guest. And there's a lot of lessons and learns that you've shared there today. So that's really fascinating. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to be part of it. I've enjoyed the series, and I hope it keeps running. It's been interesting to hear the different QP's takes on things.
Brilliant.
Best of luck to you too, and thanks for allowing me to do that.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to sort of reach out to you on LinkedIn, are you okay for that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, very open and quite active on LinkedIn as well. So please just reach out, connect. If it's a follow-up to this, happy to answer any questions. If it's about BDD, happy to try and punt the company to you. Mm-hmm. More than pleased to be connecting with people.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. You enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, Stephen.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
A huge thank you to our special guest and to our listeners for tuning into the QP Diaries podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. As the founder of AssureBio, we created the podcast to support our wider quality assurance community, which aligns to our dedicated offering as a recruitment agency to the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry across the UK. We have over 10 years of experience exclusively focused on recruiting senior quality assurance leaders and QPs. If you want to learn more about AssureBio's recruitment services, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, then please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.